an initiator on top of Rakan, because Rakan is a squishy champion. Yes, he was buffed up when it comes to the magic resistance, but that is not enough to really put him as a considerable tank when it comes to getting all the aggros. But we talked about the champions coming in. Now let's talk about the draft as we look at Geek Fam versus Bigetron Esports in Game 1 for their series.
Sorry to cut you off for a little bit, as Geek Fam tends not to contest for the Ziggs. They immediately banned it away, saying that, okay, let's try to see what will the likes of Bigetron actually offer when they don't have this dominant force across the map to drop in the Mega Inferno Bomb. But the rest of the bans will be the Fura for Geek Fam. Meanwhile, Bigetron Esports don't really want a giant kitty cat leaping their way with the Turtle Hunt, so they will negate that from the hands of Rumple, as well as the Galio being banned away.
Ooh, but we talked about Lee Sin a while ago having laps onto the pool about Bigetron Esports and Geek Fam as well. But Rumple will have the Lee Sin comfortable pick for their team as well, and forcing out Camille for Bigetron Esports.
It's interesting to note for the fact that Geek Fam actually give away the pick of the Camille over the hands of Bigetron Esports right now, and control Opsil also, however, on top of the Twisted Fate, and of course locks that in for their second one. But Geek Fam has already established that bottom lane, they just want to make sure that this Kai'Sa will become the hyper carry heading in towards the late game, so they will be pairing it with the Rakan as we mentioned early on.
Although it's a different ADC, it's going to be a Kai'Sa for Geek Fam to be locked in, but Bigetron Esports is going in for the Lulu Tristana. That's something that we have seen so far, but the Olaf is available for them, and we know that classic Wild Rift in the past, in the beta stages, utilizes the Olaf and the Lulu very well, and it's actually quite dominant. And the question would be is if we can see it today.
It's quite a beautiful ideation coming in from Bigetron Esports, where you could have the Hextech Ultimatum pulled up alongside with the Destiny, where they could just focus down one member off the side of Geek Fam. And, if things were not going well, you can rely on this Lulu pickup here with the Wild Growth, giving them a little bit more room. I'm really not too sure about this Lulu, because there was that previous patch nerf where the Whimsy range was reduced towards a certain amount, which is a little bit more tricky to pull off. So, with that being said, we will dive right into Summoner's Rift for this match in Group B.
Top 2 seed of Indonesia versus top 2 seed of Malaysia. Going to clash it out on this game number 1 for them in this Group B group stage. So I think this is going to be a bloodshed, once again, a bloodfest for Geek Fam in both Bigetron Esports as well. But there are task lists to actually check for both Geek Fam, because Renekton needs to be RK and also the Black Cleaver, and that will be his 2-core item power spike. And in the same way, you have Momo with a Kai'Sa, actually needs some more as well. Potentially having the Manamune, as we've talked about a while ago, as a caster of type of a champion for a Kai'Sa, or having traditional, having a BR, having the BF Sword, Executioner's Calling, and the Long Sword to upgrade your Arcadian Rain, then go after BRK, then Rune and Sirkin to upgrade your Super Charge. So a lot of items needed for Geek Fam to actually go for the power spike, maybe aside from Rumple, which is an early game champion. But with that said, Bigetron Esports, what do you think about the draft overall? Contra.
Well, just looking at Bigetron Esports right now, what really piqued my interest is a double setup of the fleet footwork that's coming from Control as well as Nuts. Bottom lane sees a little bit of a push and pull from both ends, but joining them will be Control eventually. Overall, I do like this sort of the gutsy dive composition per se. When it comes down to team fight, they can still manage their way through. But if we look into how they really want to set things up for a win condition, they have to ensure both Nuts as well as they will get the very big lead that they should get eventually heading towards the mid lane if they were to move across the map for some big plays.
Although having the Lee Sin with the Sonic Wave onto a Garen, onto Fam 1 into the Baron lane gives Bigetron Esports the information that Geek Fam has a strong side of the map into the Baron lane instead of the dual lane that can be utilized by Bigetron Esports if they wanted to. But Control is just gonna farm out. I think the key level for Control onto the Camille is level 5, and now that he has it, there is a big lead that they can do to go for a gank into the dual lane as they're padding it towards it.
Just looking back into some of the sort of the setup of the runes as well, Nyx opts to actually take the aftershock, but I do actually have a little bit of a preference to things like the Font of Life, which you could easily proc by going in for a grand entrance or quickness just to get a little bit more health back. But this goes to show that you want a little bit more tankiness for this Rakan, as well as a little bit more extra damage coming into certain team fights out there. Well, just look at the builds. We will have Rumple as well as the Shank both probably rushing in for the Black Cleaver to start things off.
Definitely, I think Renekton has those 2 core item power spike, and the Shang having the Black Cleaver first gives him the potential to deal damage and also some penetration in his pocket that can deal out Fab 1 into some sort of devastation from the Baron lane. But regardless, now we're in 3 minutes and 36 seconds, which means that the Mountain Dragon will come up a little bit after. And this is something that can lead to a first type of clash for these two teams.
Rumble trying to actually spot out the member of Bigetron Esports, while Nuts will be looking to move in towards the river, perhaps just picking a couple of honey fruit. Shouldn't be too much of a hassle for him to do so. Now that they're already setting up upon this Drake, they've already brought down to 50% of HP. I don't think that them should actually go anywhere towards it, or this will be spelling trouble for the Blazing side.
And they did. Geek Fam will not get it, and Bigetron Esports will secure the Mountain Dragon, leading them into a 500 gold lead against Geek Fam. And there is still a potential for them to go for the Tower First Blood, as no one still has it secured. So I think that will be the next objective that these two teams are looking forward to, especially with the Rift Herald coming up on 6 minutes, that they could utilize as well to get this sort of objective in the early game phase.
Beautiful setup coming in from Geek Fam, but there is no one to be seen, so they will be looking to secure turret number 1 for the Malaysian Legion. So for now, Geek Fam does have a very slight lead after achieving to do so. BTR just needing to actually set the tempo right. Both sides actually having a very relatively slow start as compared to all the other previous teams that have been playing in Group A. Expect to see Control here to be moving his way out if he does have the hook shot available, whether it's going to be a dive coming in from Geek Fam. There needs to be a certain response coming from the Indonesian side. That's where the rest of the Bigetron Esports members are going to be going on a reset and retreat. Well, dive comes in.
Quickness. Now actually being casted out by Rakan from Nyx, and Control will be forced to flash away. Bigetron Esports is now coming up with a Destiny in. It's going to be the stun connected onto Rumple. Rumple will flash away after the silver of health remaining, but he will still stay alive. It's a Wild Growth connecting onto Fab 1, also alive in terms of the fight. They will not get anything in return, while Geek Fam gets 2 turrets into the Baron lane.
They still have Devil here doing a little bit of a split push. And interesting enough, if Devil were to join right in, they might just have enough damage to actually take down more members of Geek Fam. It becomes a stalemate where both sides are being very respectful of each other, but the Shang now kind of overstepping his line here as Bigetron Esports want to take another huge objective down. Shelly stays low, but Geek Fam a little bit too far out of reach. Becky already being spotted up by the Warping Place, and here comes a little bit of charm, and that's a stun.
Herald slain by Globe for Bigetron Esports, and that is going to be a lot to take in, as they could actually utilize this to gain more gold lead, because at the current standing, it's pretty much even for these two teams, only a difference of 300 gold in favor of BTR. And the items are now locking in, with the Black Cleaver already available for the Shang and also Rumple. This can actually lead to a very devastating fight, especially having the first Rift Herald down, first Dragon down, the next objective will be the turrets while waiting for the next dragon to come up.
Huh. It's really hard to tell them apart right now. It's basically them doing very similar macro plays overall, but Geek Fam not really prioritizing on some of all these key objectives over on the river. They tend to look out for the turrets instead, but this might actually cost them overall in the later stages of the game. Now, let's needing to actually farm a whole lot more just to get all these big ticket items out. So I kind of want to see the overall build that's going to be coming in the way for not only our Twisted Fate, which usually will be more of a sort of the first AP, and beautiful charm
what
coming
a
in.
charm! Connecting down to control, and now it's gonna be Hexic ultimatum just save his life. That was 2 ultimates fallen down by Bigetron Esports from Harry and Control, and that will be valuable ultimates wasted, especially with the Cloud Dragon up in 5 seconds. That will be something to put Bigetron Esports at a disadvantage, as we have them being zoned up by Geek Fam through and through.
Still going to be a little bit more focus over the mid side here, a little bit push and pull, and oh boy, I don't know if Fault really wants to commit to this, but they do have to power out.
Dragon Rage. What a play from Lee Sin, from Rumple, from Geek Fam. Actually going for the 2-man knockup, but Deeks will fall down, puts them at a number disadvantage, and Bigetron Esports will get the lead onto the Cloud Dragon because Geek Fam prioritizes onto the Rift Herald. But Geek Fam is not going to produce a free dragon for the side of BTR, as Charm will connect onto Fop 1, opts to go back away, as this will be another objective secured by Bigetron Esports.
Very smart moves being pulled out by Bigetron Infinity right now. They not only get the Drake that's in place, they have been able to open up the map over on the tier 1 mid lane. And Geek Fam doesn't seem like they have their minds all on the same page, where they were kind of like thinking, okay, should we take down the Herald? Should we even go for a full 5v5 contest over the Drake? They chose the safer option, but that safe option is going to be biting them from behind because they lose both the turret as well as the Drake. Now with the goal all stashed up, Bigetron Esports make some big purchases out there, and that crit build is going to definitely hurt the members of Geek Fam once Dewa pops up in these team fights.
I like how you mentioned onto the split that Geek Fam actually did. Like, we have Nyx going in for the clash against Bigetron Esports and Rumple as well. Well, the rest of the team was going for the Rift Herald, and that split just disabled on them on going for the 5v5. But regardless, now they're coming back at it, getting a turret into the Dragon lane, which leads them more gold and closing it in against Bigetron Esports, as Hexic Ultimatum is now going to be forced out onto the Shang. And we have Flap Wall with a spin, putting them at low HP, as the Shang will be dominated and Rumple will be out as well, as Bigetron Esports gets the number advantage going to Baron Nashor.
I'm not liking what I'm seeing from Geek Fam right now. They're giving too much leeway to Bigetron Esports, and now with the Baron on the line, this could be really game-changing. And Geek Fam, they don't notice this because they don't have vision, but even if they do, they will opt to take down the turret instead. But the good news is this is for the Globe Baron Nashor that's being brought right into play by Bigetron Esports. But the duration wouldn't last as long as the later stages of the game when more Barons come into play.
With the objectives being thrown out from Geek Fam towards Bigetron Esports, they're now leading with a 2.4k gold lead. And Mountain Dragon, Cloud Dragon leads them to a good scaling when it comes to the mid-game, late-game. And that should be something that Geek Fam needs to think about. What do they do next? Especially with Infernal Dragon being the next Dragon objective, you need to think of a way to try and punish Bigetron Esports, especially with Baron buff available, because they have the lane control. They have the pressure coming in from mid lane, Dragon lane, and the Baron lane. And Geek Fam, you need to think of something to punish it and delay how Bigetron Esports is trying to go for the push.
Just looking at how Geek Fam is playing right now, they really need Rumple to step up a notch here. He went in for the Black Cleaver build, which means that he can't really take too much risk as compared to Lee Sins, who usually build GA. But oh boy, this might just be a very hard situation for Geek Fam right now.
Yeah, and those are Becky actually force out the ultimate because of the zoning from Bigetron Esports and pressuring onto the mid lane. The 4-1 setups is doing them great because Geek Fam is now pressured in to defend the their turret into the mid lane, top lane, and even the Dragon lane right now. And that's going to split the manpower of Geek Fam to a T that they need to defend as 1.5k HP remaining into the inhibitor turret mid lane that they need to defend. That's something that they need to think about as we have Nuts into the bottom lane, going for the push as well. Bigetron Esports is just side laning, waiting for the right opportunity. That's the lane control for you with a Baron buff, pressuring in all lanes.
The Baron power play has definitely pushed Geek Fam all into a state of turmoil right now, losing out the inhib right over the mid lane already, so you will expect more super minions to be shoved right in. And Geek Fam is in the poor state to even try to contest for this upcoming Drake. And Rumple now getting silenced. This is no good news for the Silesian.
And Hexic Automatum actually connected onto Momo, and Momo will force out the stasis, but the stasis will not be enough to go for the delay as we have Nyx falling down. Rumple is out of the question as well as Bigetron Esports is now collapsing into the bottom lane, gets a kill, gets two, and that will be the triple kill from Nuts as he rampages onto the Rift. And the only one remaining is Azora Vecchi to go for the defense, but Bigetron Esports will take the Nexus base down, and they will take game 2 from Group B.
The Indonesian powerhouse will dominate this in a clean play of a macro display being brought out over the Rift. As much as we don't really see those high kill volumes as compared to the rest of the matches, you can definitely tell that Bigetron were on the right track, calling the right moves to negate any form of danger coming from Geek Fam. And I'm just really startled at the fact that they have so many of all these aggressive picks coming from Geek Fam, but they're not really utilizing it in full effect. And, well, you can, of course, have either the Renton diving hit first alongside with Rumple, but every time Rumple tries to go in, there's always this huge Garen right in front of him, and once he gets silenced, there's no buttons you can press as you will be locked right in by the Camille, which Control has performed tremendously well, securing the MVP for Bigetron Esports.
Yeah, they're quick in responding into those fights, and if you're looking at it, it's 1-7. Bigetron Esports pretty much got every single objective into the map. The Mountain Dragon, the first Dragon objective came to them. Rift Herald came to them as well. The second Dragon came to them as well. So we're